Hey guys, it's Justin, Doug,
Hands up.
back from all angles, coming off of Jon Jones, your new UFC Light Heavyweight Champion for what was that third, fourth time now?
Yeah. I
Getting
don't even know.
TKO over Alexander Gustafsson at
Yeah.
UFC 232.
Yeah.
So he's now got the strap yet again,
Yeah.
calling out DC. DC having to come back down, drop another 50, 60 pounds to come back to 205, that being the retirement fight if Brock Lesnar in that fight falls out.
Well, let's talk about the fight first, and then we'll kind of talk about what's Jon Jones's future and what's going to happen with there, because that is a whole ball of wax in this thing. So first of all, the fight, I thought, this is what frustrates me with Jon. I think that he has a fake confidence. I think that that whole beginning of the entrance where he's like spinning around the circle and he's meditating and he's smiling and he's happy and all this stuff, it's all fake. He isn't that person. But what's frustrating is he doesn't need to cheat. He doesn't need to take performance enhancing drugs. His reach is such an advantage, and then on top of that, he is a very intelligent fighter. He breaks down from the legs to the body to the head, and not only you're just dealing with punches, you're dealing with elbows, and then you see him be able to get clean takedown and just do whatever he wanted to Gustafsson on the ground and just put him in different positions, and it's just, there's no weakness in Jon. Though the main weakness in Jon to me is that he cares way too much about what people think about him, and he is such a, it's weird because he'll be so cocky at times, but then also you can tell he has so much self-doubt in himself that he feels like he has to have an advantage because the pressure does get to him. So you know, but just in the fight in general, I felt like Jon clearly won round one. I felt like round two, Gustafsson kind of came back, started walking him down a couple of times, like, and he dominated the aggressiveness. He just could never commit to a shot. There was nothing that was seriously coming at Jones with power that could really affect him.
It was a Jon Jones fight. He was waiting for his opening. With his patience, he was waiting for his opening, waiting for a shot, and that's what he did until he to the third round. And when he finally got Gus down, it was a wrap. He finished it.
Yeah.
So very, very different than the first fight 5 years ago when they went to war. It was really the first time that fight 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Jon really got tested for the first time, and he had to face adversity.
Right.
That's what the big deal was. That's why that fight had such big hype behind it. And the follow-up from where we are now, it's a lot different.
What's scary to me is I feel like Jon Jones is getting better because the way that he disposed of DC in like the second round, knocked him out, the way that he's just getting Alexander Gustafsson out of there without really any threat and being able to not take a lot of damage in either one of these fights, it's nauseating. Like, but here's the thing. Okay, so now Jon Jones is going to have to go in front of Nevada, right? And Nevada is just one of the most corrupt commissions that there is. So by doing this, is Jon Jones going to be able to fight within the next 6 months? Like, are they going to drag this thing out? Are they going to examine the picogram and all this other crap that is going on? Is DC going to wait for Jon? Is DC fighting Brock Lesnar? Is DC going to go down and fight Jon? Like, there's just a lot of factors with Jon Jones.
You have to take this thing day by day because, like you're referencing, after every Jon Jones fight the last 3 years, there's whether it be a drug test or whatever trouble he may be getting himself into, whether he's meaning to or not. That's what really the next fight is, to see, is he actually going to be still your champion tomorrow, next week, next month, before possibly even getting to DC or whoever he may face next.
Right, like what happens with this post-drug test is just trash, and there's all sorts of stuff in there. Like, we're just, and like, if you remember when he fought DC the second time, it was like Jon Jones is back, and MMA has another superstar, and everything is all right in the world, and he just called out Brock Lesnar, and we're going to have this huge super fight, and yay, and then like a week later, Jon Jones test is positive. He's suspended. The bout is a no contest. He's facing a 4-year ban. Like, blech. And not only that, like Jeff Davinsky has confirmed on Joe Rogan's podcast that Jon Jones is a snitch. He agreed to snitch fighters out to get a reduced sentence. So I feel like he's almost like a partner with USADA right now, which is good for him because then it allows him to keep fighting, but it's just frustrating. No doubt in my mind, Jon Jones has cheated in his career. No doubt in my mind. I don't even hesitate that for a second. He can take a polygraph and all that other crap. Jon Jones has used performance-enhancing drugs before. And you can just tell by the way that he reacts to certain questions, by his level of cockiness and not humble at all in any situation, even when he fails multiple times, even when he becomes this giant screw-up, he still handles it like he never did anything wrong. And that is someone that is in true denial, and that's someone that does not understand the level of what they're doing. And until I see that change, Jon Jones is not going to change. Jon Jones will get arrested again. Jon Jones will probably have coke in his system again. Like, Jon Jones just cannot stay out of trouble.
Now, what do you do with Anthony Smith? The run that he went on this year, he was supposed to be getting the next shot. You would think, is that now maybe Gus's next fight? He gets Anthony Smith to see if Smith can get past Gus. Then if they can even get to Jones in DC, we can get an Anthony Smith fight. Is that what you do with him, or do you have Anthony Smith just wait around to see what happens here?
I think you just have to make him wait, honestly, because if there doesn't make sense. If you have him fight Gustafsson, okay, say Gustafsson beats him, then what?
Yeah,
you have no contender. You have Gustafsson, who clearly lost to Jones and not even really a competitive fight. So then what? I think you have to wait it out. I think Gustafsson has to fight like a Corey Anderson or something like that to kind of just get back on there. So yeah, I don't know. 205 is kind of a mess right now. Like Latifi was a kind of a contender. He just lost. So Corey Anderson kind of takes that spot. Dominic Reyes, that's probably your next possibility, and it looks like he's fighting Volcron. So there will be something to come out of there, but I think Anthony Smith is the clear-cut #1 contender, and I think he should get the next shot. So
our star of the night, the greatest female fighter of all time, Amanda Nunes, knocks out Cris Cyborg in 53 seconds.
Yeah.
Becomes the UFC Featherweight Champion. Champ still has the Bantamweight title as well.
Yeah.
Besides just having her moment in the octagon, knocking out Cris Cyborg, and she hadn't lost since 2005, her only other loss, what do you do with Amanda now? Do you see her bouncing back and forth, staying at the 145 division, even if you want to call that a division at this point? Who does she fight next regardless? And what title is it going to be for? What division is it going to be in?
Well, this is my opinion. My opinion, the biggest, UFC likes money fights. The biggest money fight they can do is a rematch, because I feel like that people are just going to be like, oh, she caught her. She wasn't that prepared, whatever. Give Cyborg a rematch. She has not lost in, 13 years?
Right.
I mean, that warrants a rematch, regardless of whatever happened. Plus, if you would beat her again, then it makes all the sense in the world to get rid of the division. Now, granted, I think the UFC could do this without a rematch. I think they could absolutely move on from the division. I don't know what happens with Megan Anderson. Sorry. But I think that the division is in serious trouble. They don't have a lot of people that fight at 145. So, good luck. I don't think that division's got a lot of hope. The problem is, though, is Amanda doesn't have really any contenders, even in any weight class. I mean, she hasn't fought Holly Holm yet. I would like to see that fight.
That's really the fight. It's just, is it 145, 135? You would think 135, going off what you're saying, if they are going to get rid of 145, because they introduced that division for Cyborg.
That's it.
That's done now.
Unless
they want to do the rematch. We don't know. Because, I mean, as long as Cyborg's been doing this, how much longer does she want to keep doing this?
I mean, that's the thing, too, is like Cyborg has been around a long time. And also, when you're as dominant as someone like a Cyborg and you get your ass kicked like that, a lot of times you never recover from that. You're never the same fighter, not even close to the same fighter. That confidence level, that invisibility is gone. So, but man, hats off to Amanda Nunes. I'm a huge Cris Cyborg fan. I fought my ass off online and everything for Cyborg to get the Ronda fight because I knew she was better than Ronda. I knew she would smoke Ronda. I knew that she was being robbed of the title of being the best. And she finally got in the UFC, and Ronda found her way out of it. But man, we just didn't know that Amanda Nunes was going to be that. And can you imagine if Ronda actually knew what Amanda was all about? Ronda would have never agreed to that fight.
Nunes' resume is just out of this world.
Out of this world.
You have Rousey,
Yep.
Cyborg,
Yep.
Pennington even earlier this year,
Yep.
Tate.
Yep.
I mean, you name it, anybody that you even
Valentina.
know. Valentina
Valentina.
Shevchenko as well. Everybody
I mean,
forgets about her because of what she's actually done now.
That's unreal. That's an unreal resume. Like you're the female GOAT.
Yeah.
That's what you are. And people are like, well, she destroyed both of the marketable fighters that the UFC had in Cyborg and Ronda, which she did. But in my opinion, if you destroy those fighters and you just continue to win, you're marketable as well. Like I think Amanda Nunes has plenty of marketability in her, the way that she has just dominated everyone. So, man, props to her. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of her. Didn't hate her or anything like that. Just didn't really care either way. I knew that she would be a dangerous threat to Cyborg. And props to Cyborg. She had a hell of a run. Hell of a run. I mean, an unbelievable run. And it was an exciting, explosive fight. It was kind of like Brock and Goldberg at Mania. Like
It was just funny the way it happened.
Explosion.
Because what Cyborg usually does, with how aggressive she is, she's running over her competition year after year, fight after fight. And then that's what happens to her with Amanda Nunes. It took, like I said, 53 seconds for her to.
But it was almost like Cyborg clearly felt like anybody I fight, I can walk through their punches, and if I hit them, they're done. And this one hit back as hard, and she just didn't know how to react. So the only thing that she knew how to react when she was hurt was, I've got to hurt her. I've got to hit her with everything that I've got. And all it did was just keep leaving her open to get jacked right in the face over and over again. So, man, props to her. Props to her. So,
besides the two big title fights, we had Michael Chiesa going up to welterweight,
right,
where he still looks like a big guy in that division.
Very big.
So actually choking out Carlos Condit, I don't know, is that the biggest win of Chiesa's career, you would think?
Yeah, I mean, he choked out Ally Quinta, but I mean, Quinta wasn't the bigger name that he is now.
Right.
Yeah, probably. It was weird, too, because I actually thought Carlos was doing pretty good the first round. I mean, all the takedowns, he was getting the reversals. I mean, he was getting submission attempts. He wasn't in any danger. He was able to land some strikes. He seemed confident. And then just bam, out of nowhere. So,
and kind of a theme that we may actually start running through as we run through the rest of the card here. That's for Condit, three fights in a row he's now dropped. Now, I don't know how many fights he's got left, what he may or may not want to do, because he's taken breaks in his career.
Well, he retired already, and then I don't think he liked it. And then it's like, but it's weird because when a fighter decides to retire, and then when they come back, it usually doesn't go that well. Like once you've mentally decided that I've had enough, then that's usually the end. And in my opinion, Bellator has established themselves as a nice secondary home for fighters that are not necessarily in their prime. Not necessarily saying that those are their key players, but they find a way to market those guys and to add them on cards, to meet them up, to get people excited for a card. And I think that like someone like a Carlos Condit would do very well in Bellator. Not necessarily facing all their top contenders,
right?
But like a Carlos Condit, Paul Daly fight in Bellator,
sure,
sign me up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that there's definitely an MMA future for Carlos Condit. I just think the UFC needs to move on from Carlos Condit. And if Carlos Condit decides, hey, I don't want to do this if I'm not going to be in the UFC, then that's another thing. But
and it's not even Bellator, like you're saying. Condit's not exactly the oldest veteran out there.
He's only
There-
34
you have
years
your,
old.
You have your one championship
Yeah.
as well, who's trying to make a run in the U.S. market in the next coming years.
I mean, you don't think that Carlos Condit versus Sage Northcutt would do well on
Oh, absolutely.
Turner? You know what I mean? Like, so that's another option. MMA free agency right now is the best it's ever been, and UFC would do a lot of these guys favors if they would just release them and kind of see where they could go and fill out some of these cards that, you know, people will still want to see some of these guys fight. They just don't have to fight the best. I feel like the UFC does a terrible job of matching legends with up-and-coming killers. Like, you just don't want to see it, and it's not marketable. And if you know that these guys are outmatched, then they probably shouldn't be in the company in the first place. So,
And Corey Anderson defeating Ilo Latifi by unanimous decision.
yeah.
Nothing that Corey's really going to get the next shot, like we've already discussed in the light heavyweight division.
Right.
Corey, he'll break in there. He'll maybe touch the top 5. Someone who's in the top, 5, 6, 7, something like that.
This is the thing that I have problem too is like the 205, there's no clear cut. I mean, Anthony Smith, yes, but like there's nobody that you look like and like, oh man, if they could just get a hold of Jon Jones.
Right.
Like, not a chance.
No.
Like, it's just a whole different ball game when you get to Jon Jones. So that's frustrating. So it's going to take a while before we have a contender that really is going to be like, you know, wow.
You could possibly give him Gus. If they don't decide to do Anthony Smith and Gus, you can do Corey Anderson and Gus.
I think that makes more sense.
Right.
I really do. I think Corey Anderson and Gus makes sense. I think Santos, Thiago Santos is in this mix. Jimmy Minowa, you know, he could fight one of the top guys too. Just kind of see where they're at on some of these things. Like, he just lost, but it's going to be, you know, the Ozdemir, the Dominic Reyes, Corey Anderson, maybe Glover, Gustafsson. Like, that's kind of where we've got this big ball of whatever to try to find a clear-cut #1 contender.
The main card opened up. Alexander Volkanovski knocked out Chad Mendes. He joins an elite group of Conor McGregor, Frankie Edgar, and
Yep.
Jose Aldo being the only guys to knock out Chad Mendes.
Yep.
And Chad Mendes was ranked number 5. And
I was really impressed with his wrestling. Like,
yeah.
I felt like that, you know, and Mendes, he would do pretty well on the feet. He would do good, but it's like they said in the commentary, like, he did good, but you could just tell he wasn't comfortable. And Volkanovski was really comfortable on the feet. And what I liked about him, and I've never really watched him fight before, but like, you could just tell he's a true fighter. Because when he would get cracked, he would smile. He'd be like, oh, come on, let's go. You want to fight? Let's fight. And like, you can just tell, Chad's in for a long night. You could feel it.
And that's someone who may give a person like Holloway, the champion of that division, a run for their money, which is kind of easy to say. I know Holloway, as great as he is,
always a bad man.
You're looking at Volkanovski for what it's worth. He's 6-0 in the UFC. He's now 19-1 overall.
And I think he's won 16 straight.
Yeah.
So
and he's in there now in the mix with Moicano, Jose Aldo.
That's a fun division.
It is.
You know, when Conor left that division after the Aldo, it was like, what's left? Like, who cares if Conor leaves? And now, man, that thing's full of killers.
Yeah.
Full of them. So, yeah, that's a fun division. There's a lot of good fights there. UFC is going to be all right in that division.
Like we were talking with Carlos Condit, seeing maybe where his future may lay. Walt Harris defeats Andrei Arlovski in what's going to be the last fight to air on the whole Fox cable package.
Yeah.
And basically a sleeper fight.
And that's another thing, like Arlovski. Cut Arlovski, let him go to Bellator. Bellator could use him in the heavyweight division so much. Like, there just needs to be a progression that the UFC is the top, and that the guys that can't really hang there anymore, you move on, and you don't have to worry about Bellator or one or whatever being like an actual contender against you. You've got this thing on lock, but it also helps other companies as well.
And Arlovski's 39. You would think,
Yeah.
man, that guy's been around forever. He's fought. This is his 4th fight in the UFC this year alone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still going. He may not be at the top of his game, but like you said, I think Bellator is a nice fit.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not sure what all weight classes one championship has exactly. I don't think it's necessarily the bigger guys
No.
are really who they're highlighting. It's the
Right.
more lighter weight guys.
He could fight. I think Brandon Vera is the heavyweight champion over there. He was the heavyweight.
But I think they're just building that division. I mean,
Brandon
Vera.
But if you had Brandon Vera versus Arlovsky, I think people would watch.
But it's like a one-off type of deal versus an actual have a run somewhere.
Definitely.
So Megan Anderson, and what's a bizarre fight and result that happened. Megan Anderson defeated Cat Zingano, and so Anderson threw this head kick to where the big toe cut the eyelid of Cat Zingano. They called the fight very quickly.
Yeah.
Technically a win for Megan. She's 145. She's not dropping down.
No.
So she's in this flux of, now you got Nunes is now the champion of that division. And we'll see how they play out, her being the champion, and she's going to bounce back and forth.
Well, what's interesting about that, too, is if they decide to get rid of the 145 division, would they literally just cut Cyborg and Megan and that's it?
I mean, they still deal with Invicta, right?
Right.
Even though they took her from Invicta, they would just throw her back down there? I don't know.
Maybe. But, I mean, like, there literally is maybe 2 legit 145-pound women in the whole UFC.
That's it, yeah. And what's silly about it even more, they just did a season on The Ultimate Fighter, crowned the champion, and supposedly now that champion of the tough season wants to go down to 135.
Right. So it just, the division's not going to last long. It was a showcase for Cyborg, and Cyborg lost.
Right.
So it's a wrap.
Last thing to go over, Ryan Hall defeats
BJ Penn.
BJ Penn, UFC Hall of Famer. BJ Penn has now lost his last 6. His last win came by means of Matt Hughes knocking him out at UFC 123 over 8 years ago. Again, this BJ, if this is all he wants to do, he has his own gym in Hawaii and everything, but if he's just so adamant that he has to fight, is that someone who, does he go to one overseas over there? Does he go to Bellator to get money out of them?
I just think the UFC needs to move on. Like, he's lost 6 in a row. Like, good God. Like, I mean, you don't want to see guys that were champions, that headline pay-per-views, that were top draws of the company, that were like figureheads of the company, fight on a prelim against a guy that won the Ultimate Fighter and lose in the second round and not even really be competitive. Like, it's awful. It's awful. And they put him up there against some killers too now. Like, so.
Well, you had Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah. Well, what are you doing there? And then Frankie Edgar and stuff. Like, yeah, of course he's going to lose those fights. But then they gave him a fight like he should have won in Dennis Seaver, and he got dominated.
Right.
And so at that point, it's like, dude. And what's sad is they're like saying, like, I don't think BJ ever thinks he's going to be champion. I just think BJ doesn't know what life is like without fighting. And so he just keeps fighting. But, like, he didn't look devastated when he lost. Like, he just was like, whatever. Like, he just went with the motions. And before BJ's first loss, I mean, the dude was devastated. He thought he was going to be one of the greatest of all time. He never thought he would lose like this. Like, there's no way he's happy with his career right now. And it's just getting worse every fight. Like, please stop it. And my opinion is go to somewhere like a Bellator, like a one, fight lesser competition, rack up some wins, and leave on a high note in sport. I mean, you look at Tito, for example. I remember when Tito was announced at Bellator to fight Rampage. That was like my dream fight, right? And I was just kind of like, ugh, like, that's not good. Like, and Tito ended up winning, 4 out of 5 fights in Bellator, and then if you're talking about the last fight against Chuck, so he ended up finishing out okay, and he ended up with a decent record, and he was able to walk out on the sunset and it not look like a sad story, and I think BJ needs that.
I think he needs to hang it up, because I don't want to see him go to, whether it be a one or a Bellator.
Yeah.
And he racks up, 2 or 3 more losses.
Yeah, that'd be sad.
The legacy that he built 10 years ago, up till then at least, to when he dropped the title.
Yeah.
To look at it now, I mean, don't keep even chanting adding on to it.
Yeah.
Just hang him up.
But man, wouldn't it have been dope if he was on that Bellator Hawaii card and he came in there and he just smashed some dude and left that way.
He can be their ambassador. Him and Hoyce can hang out and promote away.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, and I'm okay with either way. But he
Especially
has no business in the UFC.
The lighter classes, even if he were to go to a Warner Bellator, who's he going to fight? The local guy coming off like a local promotion?
I mean, he'd have to fight.
He's not going to fight top contenders there.
No, I don't want to see BJ and Michael Chandler. I don't want to see BJ and Benson Henderson. I don't want to see any of that. He's going to have to fight a bum. But yeah, it's rough. It's sad. It's sad.
Overall, I think good card. It had some interesting, bizarre results.
Wow.
A couple of those fights there.
Just dramatic. And the interesting thing is it really feels like a finale for the year. That's what it feels like. It's like a long journey with Cyborg that we've had, and it's over. And the Jon Jones thing is just...
It's still here.
The stuff to get to the fight is just a mess, and it's not over with. It's just not. And the thing that worries me is if Jon is not challenged, and we have all these guys where it's like, hey, you got to fight Dominic Reyes, or hey, you got to fight Anthony Smith. Man, Jon is going to get complacent. Jon is going to start doing stupid crap again. What worries me is when Jon Jones gets comfortable.
He's his own worst enemy, right? That's
terrible. He'll try to do his best when he first gets out of jail trouble type stuff. When he's first, off of a suspension or whatever. But dude, man, let that guy get comfortable, and we are in for just a mess.
Yeah.
So,
that was the end of the Fox run. We have 3 weeks before the move to ESPN. That debut card on ESPN Plus. TJ Dillashaw, Henry Cejudo for the flyweight title. If that division is even going to continue after that or not, we'll find that out.
Real quick, who do you have as fighter of the year?
Fighter of the year. Is that Daniel Cormier?
Yeah, DC. Makes sense.
With that winner of Osterner to open up the year.
Amanda's got to be up there now. That's a huge win.
With those 2 wins there. So she has Pennington. She only had 2 fights, huh?
I think so.
For the calendar year.
Yeah, I think so. But God, to beat Cyborg, that's impressive.
As far as the way to go out, at least.
I mean, because DC beat Volkron and he beat Stipe, And
then even Derek Lewis.
Yeah,
he went up, won the heavyweight title, and even defended it the same year.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
another one that really was just Max Holloway, I was just blown away by. I mean, that performance against Ortega was insane.
I would say maybe comeback of the year, but it's not really your typical comeback. No. He was the champion. It was just so many people doubted him, including myself, just all the issues he went through.
Khabib had a hell of a year.
Yeah, he did. And we'll see what happens with the commission there, him and Connor.
Yeah.
That division's even tied up right now.
Fight of the year?
Fight of the year.
I've got Zombie and Yair.
That's knockout, hands down at least, with that elbow at literally the last second.
Yeah, insane.
Romero
and
Whitaker back in June.
I was super impressed with Ortega Holloway too. I thought that was a great fight. It was a little one-sided, but the heart that was shown was just
that's probably my fight of the year actually as well.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. It's everything you want in a title fight. Unbelievable.
Would you say UFC's the promotion of the year?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And people can say it's all, it's been rough and pay-per-view buy rates haven't been the greatest and they've, screwed up some of these cards and all that stuff. But, man, at the end of the day, you've had a ton of great fights, ton of new stars built, ton of new, it's a lot. What I love is this is over, the year is over, and there's so much to look forward to for next year, the birth on ESPN and what can we expect from that and all that's going to come. And, starting off the bat with Cejudo and Dillashaw and Cain Velasquez and Ngannou and Anderson Silva and Israel Adesanya and Whitaker and Gastelum. I mean, this train keeps rolling, keeps rolling. So, I love the UFC. And I mean, basically we've watched every event. We've watched every event, at least pay-per-view. We didn't miss one this year, so been exciting. Ortega was way up there too, because didn't he knocked out Frankie Edgar?
He did
this year.
He would have capped off the year if he actually won the title from Holloway.
Definitely.
But
You know, until if Till would have beat Woodley, he would have been way up there because he beat Wonder Boy, and yeah, that would have been a big.
It's a lot of what ifs because a lot of up and comers had their shot at the title.
Yeah,
even like your Ngannou's.
I feel like some of them really rushed them. Like some of these guys, they shouldn't have got the titles when they did. They should be starting to get those title shots this coming year. But you know, you got to do what you got to do.
Right.
Overall, great year for the UFC. Great year for mixed martial arts. Next year can be even more exciting. Like I said, free agency in MMA has never been better. ONE FC signed with Turner, so you're going to get live fights with guys of Eddie Alvarez and Sage Northcutt and Demetrius Johnson. So a lot of good stuff there. Bellator has its cast of fighters they're exciting. They're bringing in a lot of new up-and-comers that are actually very legit fighters. You have the welterweight tournament, so that's going to be really good. So, yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on in MMA. And pro wrestling is we'll tackle that sometime.
Yeah, that's a whole can of worms. I mean, it's good and it's bad, like always does.
Absolutely.
But for what it's worth, we're going to try to keep doing these, kind of like our reaction videos to these big events. Probably do one for the ESPN Plus debut card.
Yeah.
See why not?
Definitely.
Wrestling-wise, Royal Rumble, might as well do one for that. That'll be the week after ESPN Plus.
That's if I watch Royal Rumble. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
What if Kenny Omega's going to be there?
I'll watch it.
Okay.
I'll definitely watch it.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Let me know, because this whole where the Bucks going, Cody, all this all elite wrestling, supposed to have an announcement New Year's. Definitely looking forward to that. I feel like that could be a game changer. So
no, it will be.
Keep your eye out on that. Wrestle Kingdom's coming up. Ibushi Ospreay.
As well.
Thank God. Thank the wrestling gods for this match. I think it's going to be unbelievable. So.
What about Mayweather and Ryzen making his debut?
Don't get me started on that guy. God, you think I don't like Jon Jones? Let me go off on Floyd Mayweather real quick. Yeah. It'll be, oh my God. And you know they have Kenny Bayless referee. And Kenny Bayless does all of his fights mostly in Vegas. Like, he's a boxing referee, and they are flying him out to Japan to have him fight Tenshin or whatever. And and they told him that if he does any MMA moves whatsoever, it's like this ridiculous fine that he'll get,
It's a sparring exhibition.
It's literally a sparring match. That's what it is. Like, I think Tenshin could get sued for the rest of his life if he actually just snuck in a punch and knocked out Floyd. Like, this thing is a joke. But Caldwell, I love that fight. I like that fight that he's going up there.
Yeah, Horiguchi.
Yeah, to defend his Bellator title. And I love when companies work together. Like, that's fantastic. So, and that's the thing. Ryzen might start to become a player too. I mean, if they got enough money to pay Floyd Mayweather, they got enough money to get a lot of guys. And there's certain guys, Vitor Belfort, he was talking about being a free agent. And I could definitely see him going there. TRT Vitor with the mohawk and everything. I'd watch. The bad man, TRT Vitor.
But yeah, we'll try to get back. We'll always be on Twitter like usual, guys. Next video probably be the ESPN Plus card like we're talking about. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank y'all for everything, and we'll see y'all soon.